You said, I didn't want my past to be an excuse. That probably wasn't a real easy thing to realize, was it?
No, that's the quote I use. Don't allow your situation to become your excuse in life. And I didn't realize that until after. So probably when I was later on in my career, when I started playing in BC, and a big part of that was I started surrounding myself with older veterans on the team, people that were older than me that would mentor me, kind of take me under their wing and show me what it was to be a pro. But oftentimes, so many people, we struggle with things and we almost have this victim mentality. And it's almost easier not to deal with the root issue, which is ourselves when we look at it, but it's easier to be that victim and blame other people. And that's what I did earlier on in my career is I blame other people for my failures and not really reflecting back and looking at the person, in the mirror, which was me.
We're going to expand on almost all of that. But most people here recognize your name from the CFL. But you got your start in football a little bit differently than a little bit later than a lot of people, especially someone that went on to play professionally and win a championship. So tell us how you first got into the sport.
I started playing when I was 15 years old. And so that is a later start for most people. And I was introduced through, I was a family friend, but also a principal. And it really stemmed, and I tell people this all the time, like my reasoning for playing football was it was controlled violence. My upbringing was the big reason why I played football. As a kid, I had suffered abuse, a lot of like sexual abuse and didn't know how to handle and channel all the things that were happening. Instead of fighting, it was football. That's honestly my start. I didn't want to be suspended from school anymore for fighting. The principal gave me an opportunity to play football and I never looked back. It was like love at first sight.
Did you realize at that time that was a specific channel for you to have a safe spot to be yourself and be aggressive and not get into trouble?
I think it wasn't until later on in life when I really was able to really reflect back. I'm so grateful for the volunteer coaches that come in, that volunteer time. Even if it's teachers, spending the extracurricular activity, whatever it is, if it wasn't for football, who knows where I would be? I honestly say I wouldn't be the person I am today. I know that for a fact. But I'm grateful. But also going back to, with football, it's bigger than just the sport. Like for me, I was like, it was my father. I had a father figure from playing junior football. So it's really helped mold me. Football has played a huge role in my life, but I think I didn't appreciate all the people that were involved in it until I became older and I was able to really reflect back.
Prior to the age of 15, it wasn't super easy being JR LaRose.
It definitely wasn't, but I didn't know any different. I think when you're raised in whatever environment that you're raised in, oftentimes we don't know any different. We survive. Me, I was just in survival mode. Like I grew up, my mom was part of the residential schools. You can imagine all the horrific things that had happened to her. I became a drug addict. I grew up not knowing my father. So there were so many inconsistencies in my life growing up where one, all I really wanted was to be loved by some man, somebody that I could call dad. That was something that, and I'm sure we can get into this maybe a little bit later on, but that is something that had a huge impact and not even feeling worthy. Or I'll get into it now as we're doing it, as we're talking about this. But, I started going through this counseling probably about 8 months ago. And one thing that I'd honestly struggled was never feeling worthy enough of all the things that I had in my life. Like people would look from the outside looking in. It's almost like this mask people wear as we talk about mental health. People would say like, JR's successful. He's made it. He's achieved his childhood dream. But a lot of the times, I just didn't feel worthy of all the things that I had. And so when it came to a quiet time in my life, is I would do things to self-destruct because I was so used to living in chaos. It wasn't easy growing up for me, but I didn't know any different. I was just surviving.
Can you recall a community or an individual where someone really took it to heart and told you that it had made a difference for them?
You know what? I'll never forget. There were two times. There were two times when it really made a big impact on me. The most recent time I was speaking up I was just off the coast up in it's Prince Rupert. I was speaking up and it was open to a community and a young girl came up to me and I was speaking about this sexual abuse and overcoming that. And then a question came and she asked me if I'd ever, so someone in the audience asked if I had ever pressed charges on the person that actually abused me as a kid. And I said, no, but no one has ever asked me that. I was kind of stumped by it, to be honest. And then after she came up and people were coming to sign autographs, take pictures, I'll never forget. She said, JR, I want you to know that I'm going to move forward and press charge on the person that abused me. But then she's like, you're strong enough to do the same thing. And I'll never forget that. I thought, I'm in the place where I'm supposed to be. If I can give somebody hope, a teenager hope, like I'm a grown man and I've held on to this, for years, I would talk about it, but I'd also control the narrative. Like, I would let people into a part where then I would then just I could shut it down. Like, I'll never forget, she was, I wanna say maybe 15, 16 years old, and the amount of courage that it took for this person to open up about that and to just say, "Jared, you're strong enough to do that." Phew. That was, we talk about TSN turning point in my life, and why I started seeking counseling was because I had realized that there were so many things that I was holding on to, that I controlled this narrative, but I wouldn't fully open up. And if by me sharing my story gave someone else hope, well, how can I now keep other people account? And I never thought about it, but that was honestly probably the biggest thing. Was I'll never forget speaking up there, Prince Rupert, that teenager, giving her that, it gave her courage and strength to do something, was something was bigger for me. Her opening up was bigger, had a bigger impact on me than I think, me speaking to her. Not to minimize my impact on her, but for me, that's why I took it.